biggest mistakes that I see people make before moving to Colorado is assuming that if they make $100,000 a year, that they'll automatically be comfortable here. And honestly, depending on where you want to live, that may or may not be true. In this video, I'm breaking down what life actually looks like at $75,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, and $200,000 a year plus when living in Colorado in 2026. I'll show you where you can realistically live, whether buying is actually in the cards for you, and the hidden costs that almost nobody talks about before they move here. And make sure that you stick around because later I'm going to show you the expense that catches almost every single out-of-state buyer off guard. Before we even dive into the numbers in this video, there's one thing that can completely throw this entire conversation off. Because when people say they're moving to Colorado, they could mean Boulder or they could mean Pueblo, and those places are two completely different financial realities. One of the main things that you need to understand about Colorado is that Colorado is not one market. It is not one cost of living. Boulder is completely different than the eastern side of Colorado, and mountain towns are their own entire universe. And when we're comparing the northern side of Colorado to the southern side of Colorado, you're going to see completely different prices. And every single market truly does have its own niche buyers, its own niche sellers, and its own price and reasoning behind that price. And so it's very important for you to understand that when you are planning a trip to Colorado, you want to get so crystal clear on where you are looking, because your money is not going to stretch the same amount in all of these different areas. And it's very important that we get clear on what your budget is and what you're coming here with, and also what lifestyle you want to live, because once we have that information, we match it together and we really focus on the places that are going to fit for you, not the places that are not going to be right for the lifestyle, and not the places that are going to be extremely over budgeted. Now let's talk about the income level that surprises people the most, because if your household makes around $75,000 a year, Colorado isn't necessarily out of reach, but where you choose to live becomes incredibly important. $75,000 a year is going to give you a comfortable living situation in places like Pueblo, Greeley, Grand Junction, places in Colorado Springs, and a lot of places on the eastern side of Colorado. And when we're talking about renting, it's going to be very comfortable here. And when we're talking about buying, it's very possible for you to buy a house in these areas as well. We're seeing the purchase price anywhere from $300,000 to around $500,000, depending on the style of home that you're looking at. But there's plenty of condos, plenty of townhomes, plenty of small single family homes in these areas that are going to be a great option for you to really get your foot in the door if you're somebody that is making less income and truly feels like homeownership is going to be out of reach. In these areas, it's not. So don't let $75,000 or less scare you out of coming to Colorado, but make sure that you reach out, because I can really help you decide on where your money is going to stretch the furthest and where you're going to be the happiest with that income every year. The big challenges here is front range ownership. You are most likely not going to be buying a home or even potentially renting a home in these areas, depending on what you're looking for, because the cost of living is just going to be so unrealistic. Places like Boulder, Estes Park, Lyons, Longmont, those places are going to be very out of reach because the cost of living is just so much higher, and you are most likely only going to be able to get your foot in the door as a renter, not a buyer in these areas. And I personally think that it's better for you to get your foot in the door in somewhere that, has a great real estate market and is going to show you some appreciation over the next couple of years that you can eventually sell and then move into the market that you want to be in, versus moving somewhere that you really want to be but spending a ton of money in rental prices just to never be able to buy a house. And if you're somebody that wants to rent forever, that is perfectly fine, and you should come to Colorado, and I'm not deterring you at all. But if you're somebody that wants to buy a home, in Colorado and be a homeowner, I think it's very important that you're strategic on where you're placing your dollars, because homeownership can truly be out of reach depending on where you're moving to if you're only making $75,000 or less a year. Your lifestyle when you're making $75,000 in Colorado needs to be very intentional. You're not really able to just do whatever you want. It really is picking and choosing what festivals you're going to, where you're traveling to, how often you're eating out, because that is a big expense, and also what you're doing for the extracurriculars. So just know that Colorado is not out of reach for you if you're making $75,000 or less, but it's important that you're intentional about where you're putting that money, because money, it just has a way of burning very quickly here in Colorado, and sometimes it's very easy to live the lifestyle that you want to live and then look around and realize that you aren't able to do much of anything at all the next month because you're only able to afford the roof over your head. So, very important. Make sure that if you are making $75,000 or less, that you look into these areas, because there's great communities, there's great people, and there's also great homes that you can get your foot in the door with. The $100,000 household. This is where things get interesting, because when I talk to people and I ask them, how much money do you think is going to be enough for you to live comfortably here? The answer that I hear the most often is $100,000. And here's the thing. Some people move here with $100,000 household and they are very comfortable and they're very happy and they're thriving and they love Colorado. And some people with the same $100,000 household move here and are stretched absolutely way too thin and everything just goes wrong. So let me hop into why this is and what the difference is between these two households. Location is everything. So if you're somebody that is looking in the Thornton area, you're looking in Brighton, potentially, you're looking in places in North Glen, parts of Westminster, different areas in the northern Denver metro, and then also the southern Denver metro. We're talking about places in Aurora, Commerce City, and then also places in between Longmont and Fort Collins. $100,000 can stretch very comfortably. And if you're renting, you're definitely going to be comfortable. You can find very affordable apartments, townhomes, condos, and single family homes for rent in all of these areas. If you're buying, you are going to be comfortable as well. There's tons of different down payment assistance programs actually that you can still qualify for with this income. With $100,000 in Colorado, these areas are going to feel a lot more comfortable, and buying a house is definitely in the cards for you. But you still want to sit with the cost of living, you still want to do all of the math, and you still want to be intentional with where you are putting your dollars, because again, Colorado is expensive and you want to make sure that you're getting yourself into a position where you can thrive, not one where you're spending so much money on the roof that's over your head that you're not able to enjoy the lifestyle that you came to Colorado for. So it's important that you still consider childcare costs, insurance costs, and lifestyle costs when we're at the $100,000 mark. Once households get to the $150,000 range, the conversation changes drastically, and a lot of those niche neighborhoods that are super desirable that you've probably heard about start becoming a real possibility for you. We're talking about some of the most desirable neighborhoods in places like Westminster, Thornton, Erie, Longmont, Arvada, and Littleton, different areas like that. So once you get to that $150,000 mark for your household, things really start to open up and your comfortability level goes way up. And when we're talking about renting, you're definitely going to be able to find something that is affordable for you when we're talking about making that amount for your household every single year in 2026. But when we're having the conversation about buying, neighborhoods just start to really open up. And we're talking about the Ranch, Legacy Ridge, different places like that in Westminster. We're talking about Lake and the Riverdale area, Lamberston Farms, different areas that are really desirable in places in Thornton. And then we're also talking about Amber Creek, we're talking about the Broadlands, we're talking about McKay Landing, different really desirable neighborhoods in Broomfield. And so once you hit $150,000, the conversation truly changes so drastically because your comfortability level is going to change drastically. So if this is you, if you're somebody that's coming to Colorado and you're making this amount of money and you want help really figuring out where the best neighborhood is going to be for you to spend your dollars, definitely reach out because again, not every market is created the same. And if you're going to be investing that much money into a property, you really want to make sure that you are positioned correctly so that your property appreciates, so that you gain equity, and so that you're really in a good position to be a buyer in this market. The benefits of this household is that home ownership truly becomes easier. You have more saving opportunities, and life is just more flexible, meaning that you have more opportunities to enjoy the lifestyle that you came to Colorado for and more recreation opportunities as well. So truly $150,000 starts to stretch way further. And at any one of these points, it's really important that you do all of the budgeting and that you have realistic conversations with yourself and whoever is coming with you. But I found that people that are coming with a $150,000 household, it just makes the process easier because it's that price point has a lot more availability and it gives you more options, and it just makes things easier and it makes things more comfortable when you're moving to Colorado. Now, if your household is making $200,000 in 2026, you might think that you have solved the affordability issue in Colorado, and that might not be the case depending on where you are looking. If you're looking in the niche markets like Aspen and the Maroon Bells area, we're talking about Crested Butte and just different areas that are really in the mountains. Those places are still going to be extremely expensive. And there's still places in Boulder, Colorado, and even Denver, Colorado, where you're going to have property prices and cost of living that is just through the roof. And so even if you're making this amount of money, you can still move to Colorado and feel as if you don't know where your money is going. It feels like you can't save and you feel very stretched thin. And so I always recommend, even if you're making a lot of money, it's so important that you do your due diligence. It's so important that you do the cost of living. It's so important that you really narrow down how much of that $200,000 are you going to be spending on your housing. Because again, if you're spending too much money on the cost of living and the necessities, you're not going to have any money left over for you to enjoy the lifestyle that you came to Colorado for. So yes, $200,000 for your household is going to make things a lot easier. It's going to open up a lot more markets. We are talking about certain areas in Boulder and Denver. We're talking about some of the best neighborhoods, the most desirable neighborhoods in all of the Denver metro. But it's still important for you to really figure out where all of your dollars are going to go so that you get here and thrive and you're not surviving and thinking to yourself at the end of the year, how are we only scraping by when we're making this much money? Because the people that think that way end up leaving Colorado for a state that is less expensive, when if they would have started in the right area, they would have been able to have an enjoyable life in Colorado and potentially move up to the areas that they really desire to be in. So all of this to say, it matters how much money you are bringing to Colorado. And based on that and based on the lifestyle that you want to live, that is going to figure out where you are meant to be renting a home or buying a home. So please don't just start looking at all the highlight reels and don't just start looking at all of the places that the lifestyle looks incredible, because if you move there and you can't afford that lifestyle, that's going to suck. So regardless if you're making $75,000 or less a year coming to Colorado, or you're making over $200,000 a year in your household, reach out and let's have a conversation about what it looks like to compare the cost of living from where you're coming to where you're going and see if it makes sense or if we should be looking somewhere else entirely. Some of the areas that are going to fit for the $200,000 plus household are going to be the best neighborhoods in Broomfield: Louisville, Superior, Highlands Ranch, Parker, places in Castle Rock. And so once you're at this point, the options truly start to open up for you. And there's a lot of different cities that are going to have beautiful communities that fit this price point. Okay, now let's talk about the part almost every single relocation video that I have seen skips, because there are the expenses that buyers call me about 6 months after moving and say, I really wish I would have known this before we made the move. And I want you to know beforehand so that you don't call me saying those words. Okay, let's start with the one that shocks the most people. This is going to be your registration and title fees when having a vehicle in Colorado. So, Colorado charges an annual vehicle registration fee that includes ownership tax, and it catches a lot of newcomers off guard. And I was one of those newcomers that was caught off guard because when it comes to a newer vehicle here in Colorado, it could cost you several $100s or up to over $1,000. And that's how much it cost me to get a 2020 Subaru in 2022. It cost, I think, $1,400 to get that thing registered for me to drive it after purchasing. And that was wild. So it's really important that you budget for this, because regardless of what you are coming to Colorado with, there are so many people that do not budget for this expense. And oftentimes we are not talking about one vehicle, we're talking about multiple vehicles, because you're often moving with more than one person. So it's very important that you understand that when you go to the DMV to get all of your vehicles registered in Colorado, you might be looking at a very hefty bill. And so it's important for you to budget for that cost when you come here and every single year after. Colorado's ownership tax is based partly on the vehicle value and age, which is why the newer vehicles get hit the hardest. So make sure that you remember this when coming to Colorado. The second thing to really keep in mind is going to be insurance costs. And if you're buying a home, this is something that you should really consider before you ever go under contract, because this cost truly surprises a lot of people. And I just had this conversation yesterday, and the person that I was talking to was significantly surprised that the insurance cost was so expensive here. And it's because of all of the weather that we have in Colorado. Insurance is just going to be expensive. So if you are buying a home, some people, depending on where you're at, especially if you're going to be in a very heavily wooded area that has higher fire risk than other areas, you might see over $400 a month being spent for your insurance. And if you have vehicles, there's a lot of people on the roads, there's a lot of accidents, there's a lot of hail damage to these vehicles that's causing total losses. And because of that, the insurance premiums have just gone through the roof. I was telling Bo today that it was so nuts because in New Mexico, if we were spending over $250 for two vehicles, I was super upset and I was calling people and trying to get our insurance to go down. And in Colorado, I just got a quote for like $375 for two vehicles every single month. And that's down from like $495, I think. And so I was calling about how excited I was that the cost had gone down. And what's interesting is that compared to where we came from, the cost is actually up $100. And in the last couple years, it's been up $200 to $300 compared to where we came from in New Mexico. And so insurance for your home, renter's insurance, insurance for your vehicles, it's going to be expensive in Colorado, and it's very extremely important that you budget for this. What's actually really surprising is that 25 to 50% of all claims are tied to hail damage. So I'm not lying to you when I say I am somebody that has experienced that. I had a total loss with severe hail damage, and If you're a homeowner, you want to protect your roof. If you are a vehicle owner, you want to protect your vehicle. And it's important that you get a garage, it's important that you get a covered carport, and it's important that you have insurance on what you own, because there's a high likelihood that weather could come through and really cause you some issues. Another thing that people just don't really budget for before they come here is childcare. It's going to be expensive in Colorado because everybody is trying to afford living here. And so you really have to consider that the babysitter, the person that you're hiring to come watch your kids on Friday night, the person that you are hiring to watch your kids while you're at work, the person that has an entire business that you are hiring to keep your kids safe while you are making money, they need to make a living as well. And so we are not seeing $15 an hour for childcare in Colorado. You're seeing more like 30 to 40, maybe even higher dollars an hour for good childcare. And I do believe that this comes with, like managing the house and whatnot. But it's just really important that if you have little kiddos, that you plan for what you're going to do with them while you're off making money in order for you to afford the life that you're trying to live in Colorado, and that you budget for how much it's going to cost for childcare, because this is a very high cost, and it's not one that you can get away from, especially if you're moving here and you don't know anyone and you don't have a family support. Infant daycare in Colorado can easily run $1,500 to $1,800 per month, and in some areas it can be even higher than that. Recent Colorado child care estimates place infant care around $1,700 plus monthly on average, with county level averages often exceeding $1,500 per child. Per child. This is not for the whole crew. This is per kid. And I've had families tell me that they were budgeting for their house expense only to let me know that they didn't know that they were going to have to budget very similar to their mortgage and very similar to a lot of their bills combined just for childcare. So it is a high cost. If you have kids, this can completely reshape where you should be renting or buying a house. And this is just one of those costs that a lot of people don't think about before they get here. And I think it's one that really leads to you feeling stressed and stretched thin, because you're spending all of your money on the roof over your head and on the people watching your kids. And that leads to nothing left over for you to enjoy your life here. And that's what it's all about. This one isn't a bad thing, but people just don't plan for this. The recreation and lifestyle costs money. And even if you're moving here so that you can go on incredible hikes and so that you can, really enjoy what is available in recreation from, the land and the nature, it's still going to cost money for you to have hiking boots. It's still going to cost money for you to drive to the mountains. It's still going to cost money for those oil changes. And so you just want to make sure that depending on the type of life that you want to live when you come out here, if you're somebody that wants to get into skiing and snowboarding, you need to start saving up some money, because that is an expensive sport. And if you're somebody that likes to go boating and all of the different water activities, that's an expensive sport as well. There's a lot of people that have moved here that have actually had horses and have ended up selling their horses because it costs so much money to board their horses here, and they don't ever spend time with them because they're too busy working just to pay for the horse to be boarded. So if you are coming out here because you want to live an incredible lifestyle, and recreation and outdoor recreation is part of that, just make sure that you budget for how much it's going to cost you to truly do those activities, because just because it's available on the land does not mean it's free. And a lot of people get a big sticker shock when looking at those different types of sports. Nobody moves to Colorado and wants to sit inside all weekend, and the people that are doing that are the ones that are stretched thin, and the people that are out enjoying their lives and really thriving are the ones that did their due diligence before they made the move. And this is exactly why I personally do not think that affordability is about income. I think it's about expectations, because you can have a lot of income, and if your expectations are not correct, you could be living the exact same way that somebody with $50,000 a year is living. And so please reach out and ask questions and make sure that you go through the relocation guide and you look at the different numbers that are included in there, because I actually have the average income that people are making in these different areas and the average cost of living and the average age and just all of this information so that you really know the demographics and what is going on in these different areas that you're interested in and which ones are going to match who you are and who is coming with you. Because there are people that can move here and they could be making over $200,000. And if they choose the wrong location, they are living a worse life than somebody that came here with $100,000 a year and chose one of the more favorable, one of the more affordable areas in the Denver metro. And it doesn't have to be the end all be all. Again, baby steps are important. It's important for you to get your foot in the door. It's important for you to start somewhere. And so if you want to end up in Littleton, but you only are able to afford areas like Thornton and Westminster and North Glen and places like that, fine. Let's get you into a really good position in a property in an area that's going to appreciate so that in a couple years you can not pay the capital gains and you can sell a property for more than what you purchased it for, and you can get a property that is in the area that you want to be. And so I would rather you start in an area that isn't necessarily exactly where you want to end up, but be able to enjoy the journey and end up where you want to be in 2 to 5 years, instead of starting exactly where you want to be, not being able to afford it, and just going back home and being so disappointed that you made a move and it did not work out. And I think that can be very defeating and it can set you back several years, not only financially, but also spiritually as well. I think that that is a really big blow to have if that happens to you. And I want to help you avoid that. So if you're thinking about moving to Colorado and you have questions on what areas are going to be good for you and are going to help make your money stretch as far as it possibly can and also give you the life that you're looking to lead, reach out. I would love to help you. And then make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that we can stay connected. By the way, if you're trying to figure out the different commute times and budget, cost of living, different places to live, the makeup of different cities and neighborhoods, I've already done a lot of that research for you. So I have a relocation guide that is in the description below. You can grab that link and it's got a ton of information in it. And then once you're done reviewing all of that, if you have questions, you can just give me a call and we'll take it from there. So after all of this, who is Colorado for? Colorado is for the people that are outdoor enthusiasts that love incredible views of the mountains and are looking for a really great quality of life and a better life. If you're looking for a better life, if you want to be around incredible mountains, if you want to be around so many opportunities, if you want to be around so many things to do, if you want to have such a plethora of things at your fingertips that you really have to figure out what you want to do and do process of elimination, because if you don't, you're just going to spend all of your money in one weekend. If you just want to be immersed in a different world, I believe that Colorado is a great place to call home. But if you are somebody that doesn't have the finances to do what you want here, that's a kind conversation for you to have with yourself, for you to potentially reach out and have with me if you have questions about, Colorado might not be the right place for you. And it doesn't have to be out of the cards forever, but if you're somebody that is coming with less than $75,000 and you really want to be a homeowner, it might be better for you to become a homeowner in a different state and build equity and be able to sell that property so that you can then move to Colorado and be a homeowner. Because if you move somewhere with a limited amount of income, there's a high likelihood that you're not going to be able to save up for the down payment, that you're not going to be able to save up for the emergency fund that you should have if you want to become a homeowner. And with that, it often leads to becoming a renter forever and just hating the system and saying that nothing's affordable and you can't ever do anything and you're just living here to spend money on your roof and you can't ever go hiking, you can't ever do anything because you're only working every single day. I don't think that Colorado should be the place that you choose to live. And I mean that with so much kindness out of my heart. I wish that somebody would have had this conversation with me because I'm so happy that we made the move. I'm so happy to live in Colorado. I love living here. It's been an incredible experience, but it was not without its problems, and it was not without some really big problems and some really big financial problems. And truly, there, everything that I mentioned to you, I have made the mistake on. I did not pay the gap insurance, and I had a totaled vehicle within a couple years of being here. I did not do the due diligence on where we were supposed to be, and it ended up being the wrong. I love Longmont still, it's gorgeous, but it's just completely, it's so far out from where I am doing business. Because I handle so many people that are moving to the Denver metro and just so many areas across the state, it didn't make sense for me to be so far north to where I was stuck in traffic for such a long time. And so it's important that you sit with all of this, and it's important that you ask yourself questions, and it's important that you reach out and you ask questions, and it's so important that you learn from the mistakes of others that have done what you want to do, because you don't have to make the same mistakes. You don't have to waste and lose the same money. You can really avoid that and have a better experience than even I have had in Colorado. And so Colorado can be really good for you or it can be really bad for you, and it all depends on the research that you're doing and who you are and what your situation is and whether it's going to align with where you want to be. So, all of that to say, if you're thinking about moving to Colorado, I would love to help you. All of my information is right here. Make sure that you grab that relocation guide in the description. There's some other resources there as well. I'd love to connect with you further. And until the next video, thanks. Bye.